Correspondent Stephanie Riggs with CBS station KCNC in Denver has been reporting on the Stark family from the beginning. She picks up their incredible journey on Independence Day.
There's always a risk when they go in for surgery.
It's going to be a tough day, girls. Tough day.
Today is Independence Day for Sid and Lexi Stark.
Did you press 2 yet?
Yeah.
A day their parents have been waiting for and dreading for 7 months.
Work them around me then.
Okay, hold on.
We just got to get through it.
Emily and Jim Stark's conjoined twins are about to become separate little girls.
Creator God, we place these babies, Sid and Lexi, in your hands.
Out of their separation, a coming together, their family and friends, some 20 strong.
We ask that you guide all of us on this day. Amen.
You all right?
The surgery could take 24 hours.
Okay. I love my girls tremendously. They're going through the impossible, but they'll be able to get through it because I love them. And that's really what this whole journey has been about.
Was it harder or easier than you thought to hand them off?
It was harder.
It was harder than you thought it would be.
It's hard because this is it. That's the last time we'll see them joined.
Got to lead off on Lexi. Okay, scalpel, please. We're starting, folks.
The longer in the day it got, the harder it got. It starts to drain you emotionally and physically.
What is the news you want to hear?
Yeah, I want to hear that their
Separate, toes are moving.
legs are kicking.
Finally, after 11 hours of surgery,
Okay, done.
Sydney and Alexandra Stark are separated.
2 babies.
They're on separate beds. Everything looks fabulous.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Thank you for all the dreams for me.
Thanks.
I think such a weight was lifted from so many people.
They're separated.
Can you believe it?
Everyone realized, I think, how significant that was.
But they've still got a lot of work to do.
So far, so good.
As the plastic surgeons take over, Dr. McDowell's concerns have gone away.
You know, we got a lot of skin here.
There looks to be more than enough healthy skin to close the girls.
So it's going well.
For the Starks, it has been a seemingly endless day, filled with only good news.
To my 2 daughters.
Next Friday marks the 70th anniversary of D-Day, the day the Allies invaded Normandy and opened a Western front in World War II. Chances are the troops would have faced an even tougher fight if not for some special pilots spreading their wings in the run-up to the attack. Contributor Stephanie Riggs has their story.
On June 6, 1944, as Allied troops fought and died on the beaches of Normandy, high in the skies above the fray, thousands of U.S. warplanes lent vital support. And those planes were there, in part, thanks to the efforts of a little-known band of brave women far from the front lines. Women like Lucille Wise.
Well, I guess the last time I flew was in December 1944.
What was it like?
It was, well, it was hard to give up. I loved the flying.
At 93, Lucille is one of the few left to tell their story firsthand.
Why did you want to fly U.S. warplanes?
Well, of course, one reason, of course, was because I loved to fly. But I also wanted to help in the war effort. Everybody was so patriotic.
In 1942, the U.S. built thousands of planes in its war factories each month. These planes needed to be delivered to air bases, but pilots were in short supply. And so in the summer of 1943, a call went out for women to do the flying.
I was accepted in May of '43, one of the earlier classes, and I went on the train down to Sweetwater, Texas.
25,000 women applied, and 1,100 were chosen as Women Air Force Service Pilots, WASPS.
We were trained the military way, just like the male cadets were trained. We lived in barracks, we slept on metal cots, And we learned to march, and we were under military discipline. We had demerits, so we had to make our beds in a certain way, and we had inspections.
The WASPs are willing to plow into as rugged a 6-month stretch as anything handed to women in the whole war effort.
It was very stressful because we had to meet the requirements. But I think that we did prove that women could fly those airplanes just as well as the men could.
The WASPs proved themselves again and again, logging more than 60 million miles in more than 12,000 aircraft, like the B-17s, B-24s, and P-51 Mustangs, that helped win the war. But while other women involved in the war effort, the Rosie, the Riveters, and their like lived on in our popular culture, after the war, the WASPs were largely forgotten.
I think every American should be aware of what these women sacrificed and did during World War II. It was during a time when women were not able to have careers and do things outside of their traditional roles. And this was an opportunity to be adventurous, to serve their country, and they did it in such a graceful and beautiful way.
Jill Bond is a filmmaker whose documentary, We Serve Too, hopes to give the WASPs their due before it's too late. And how many of the women that flew for the WASP are still around?
There's under 200 women still left. So I feel a sense of urgency to get this story out so those that are still with us can see that they're being recognized and that the country is really rallying behind them.
Well, none of the WASPs saw combat. Flying fast, powerful war machines was dangerous business. 38 women died in crashes. And since the women were classified as civilians, neither they nor their families received military benefits.
If a girl got killed, the parents didn't get anything. Not a flag, nothing. Not even any acknowledgement that their daughter had been in the military.
All that changed in 1976.
A new era began with the arrival of the first female cadets,
when with great fanfare, women were admitted into the Air Force. The WASPs took notice.
And they were putting out news releases that for the first time women would be flying military aircraft. And they had just kind of forgotten about us. And so that's when we got organized.
They got organized and got results. In 1977, the WASPs were reclassified as military veterans and granted full benefits. But for Lucille Wise and the others, real recognition came in 2009 when President Obama signed a bill awarding the WASPs the Congressional Gold Medal. House Speaker John Boehner.
And simply put, the outstanding success that America achieved in the era during World War II would not have been possible without the women Air Force Service pilots.
Deanie Parrish accepted the award for all the WASPs at a Washington ceremony the following year.
I believe this is the day that when the people of America will no longer hesitate in answering the question, do you know who the WASPs were?
Today, more than 60,000 women serve in the U.S. Air Force, flying on the wings of a legacy that was almost left behind.
And those women give you the credit for opening the door for them.
They do, yes. If we had any part in it, I'm very pleased. They probably would have done it without us, but maybe we made it a little bit easier for them.
Sometimes it seems it takes a cruel and senseless act to remind us of how public-spirited and generous we Americans can be, which is why we wanted to tell you a story that reaches from Denver to Western Africa.
2 years ago, a senseless murder in Colorado shined the light on a man and inspired many people in our state to embrace his people and his American dream. And out of something tragic came something positive between this tiny village in West Africa and our entire state.
Children shout, Amérique, America. Hundreds of villagers crowd around our car. Women, children, and elders. Many of the young men, like Omar Jah, have gone to find jobs in the big cities to support their families here.
Omar Jah, like so many young West African men, had no choice but to move to Dakar and eventually the U.S. The move meant the survival of a village so tiny you can't even find it on a map.
You took a very different tact with this story. Tell me what you did.
Well, this city actually told the story. When Omar Jah was gunned down in downtown Denver, it was a story that made news, of course, but we started to learn more about this man and what his life stood for. And I think what happened is Colorado said, no, this is wrong. We have to make it right. And they made it right. And it was a spontaneous reaction to a random act of violence. Random acts of kindness erupted all over the city to the tune of about $300,000. And as a result, this city got together and made Omar Jah's dreams come true, half a world away. And I wanted to go there and show Colorado, this is what you did. This is what we can do if we stand together in hope and love. It touched our souls.
Happy to see you again.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Osgood.
The children we're listening to live in the East African nation of Kenya, near the town of Matoso, in a small and special settlement called Lalmba. Stephanie Riggs of our CBS Denver station, KCNC, takes us to meet these struggling but amazingly cheerful children and a remarkable couple dedicated to helping them to the fullest.
Welcome. We are happy to see you again.
These children are welcoming home the man and woman they call father and mother.
Hello. Hello.
You are so big. What happened? You got so big.
Hey, Cha-Cha, how are you? Fine, good to see you. Yes, nice. How are you doing?
Year after year, Hugh and Marty Downey spend half their time in Denver and the other half on the shores of Lake Victoria, where they run a home for orphan children.
They're my kids. This is my family.
Used to be when I saw the kids like this, it just would break my heart. But after 40 years, when I see these kids, I see hope.
Africa is becoming a continent of children. It's not unusual to see an 8-year-old responsible for his brothers and sisters. Their parents are gone. AIDS and a mediocre healthcare system continue to wipe out the adult population here.
But Hugh knows from experience that simple acts set in motion today will go on for future generations.
It's all where you put your values. It depends on what's important to you in life. And to us, personally, nothing's more important than children.
He is almost like a farmer, planting seeds of hope.
These children can grow up to make an impact on their culture. These children over here, these are the teachers. These are the educators. These are the healthcare workers. These are the farmers. These are the fishermen. No, I don't see them much different than I did 40 years ago.
Using only private donations from Colorado, the Downeys have changed the course of a country. They transformed a once barren field along Lake Victoria into a medical clinic and children's home for orphans. How many children can sleep in one tuko?
In boys' room, there are 4 kids, and the other side also 4 kids.
The children sleep under mosquito nets to protect them from malaria, the #1 killer in the developing world. The children eat beans, rice, flatbread, and kale.
It's amazing. Some of these kids come in here and they're little and they're scrawny and they haven't had much to eat all their life, and a year later you come back and you say, is that the same kid, you know?
Pepas.
They use newspaper to cut patterns for clothing.
He only has 3 legs. What kind of a cow is this?
Hugh and Marty hand out prizes for creative handmade toys.
Group number 4, yes. Thank you.
24 children live at this home, where Lalamba pays for their medical care and education.
They give me clothes, they pay school fee, school uniforms, and everything in my life.
Why?
I don't know. God knows.
We are marching in the light of God. We are marching in the light of God.
Lalamba's care reaches 500 other orphans in the region. At least once a year, all of Marty and Hugh's children gather for a big party.
It is impossible to estimate how many children the Downeys and the Lalamba Association have embraced throughout this region. Some of these children walked 2-3 hours to be here today in Kenya, but this is just a small part of Lalamba. The Downeys have also set up children's homes and medical facilities in Eritrea and Ethiopia.
All right.
It's a chance to be a child in a part of the world where children rarely get that opportunity.
They're allowed to be children for the first time in their lives.
Thanks to a Colorado couple who brought salvation to a corner of the world that only knew despair.